When you look at the most beloved games of all times, there is a high chance that you'll see that the game in question is a follow-up to the original in some way, like Portal 2 or Half-Life 2. These two games are regarded as the best games of all time. Sequels in general can massively improve core ideas of the original and more, and the results speak for themselves. However, not every game can achieve this, as more often than not the sequel can go the other direction and be a significant downgrade. These days, whenever a sequel is announced for a game, there will be hype for it. For good games at least. But there's also a thought back in our mind thinking, what if the game ends up being bad? Now I know this also applies for a brand new original game, but for sequels? Imagine waiting for a sequel to your beloved game for several years, and the end product is something like this. Doesn't feel good. Then we have Blasphemous II. This game is not good. It's not great either. It's phenomenal. This game not only lives up to the hype, but improves on the original in almost every way. I played the original around the beginning of 2021. I liked the game, but it was a bit rough around the edges. The sequel, however, fixes almost all of the problems I had with the game and then some. And this goes without saying, I will be spoiling this game as well as the original, so please go play both games and come back once you've finished them. With that said, let's talk about Blasphemous II.
Make my chest hurt with regret. Forge your punishment and nail it deep. Shape my guilt once again.
What drew many people into Blasphemous was its art style and the world. It covered dark religious themes and taking many inspirations from Spanish culture and traditions, most notably from city called Seville. The Gothic and Baroque style is based on city's monuments and art. The game is also inspired by painter Francisco Goya and his many artworks. There is a lot of cultural references in the game, like the design of Penitent One being based on Capirote, and the designs of other NPCs and bosses you meet in the game. The game is also very violent and gross at times, but it's in a justified way and it helps to build the world of Custodia to be something more memorable. When you also add some of, if not the best pixel art ever made, you get a world that is immersive, intriguing, and at times beautiful in a twisted way. Blasphemous 2 doesn't change this tone one bit. However, the use of colors and the designs of areas are much more polished than the original. Areas are more detailed, colors are better used and more vibrant while also giving the same feeling like the original did. The game is still violent and gross, but in a way that is really fascinating to look at rather than feeling like cheap gore. The only change this game has is that the cutscenes are no longer done in pixel art. For some, this is a downgrade from the original since those cutscenes helped you to get more immersed into the world. It didn't bother me personally since the 2D cutscenes are very smooth and well animated. The world of Blasphemous 2 from an artistic direction is on par with the original, but with more polish. However, the exploration aspect is a significant upgrade from the original. Blasphemous 1 is considered by many not to be a Metroidvania since you don't get ability upgrades like the double jump. Instead, the game is reliant on these optional upgrades to get secret items, prayers, and etc. You didn't need to unlock these abilities to finish the game. Blasphemous 2 ditches that idea for a more traditional ability upgrades. At first glance, this might seem like a step down since it's less original. While it is less original, that doesn't mean it's a bad change. Plus, there's a lot of positives from this change. The pacing is much better here since your movement is changed after every ability upgrade. A lot of previous dead ends are now open for you. The first game's exploration is great, don't get me wrong, but since your movement is sluggish, which doesn't fit well with many platforming sections, the pacing was way too slow. Which is not the case with Blasphemous 2. There was always something new to find, whether it's a new altar piece, prayer bead, health upgrades, fervor upgrades, quest items, or cheer-ups. The game was always rewarding me for thorough exploration. There is also changes to some quality of life upgrades you get, like teleporting between checkpoints. In the original, you had to use your currency to give a certain amount to this church so that you can teleport between the checkpoints, which is something that I really wasn't a fan of. Here, however, this upgrade is directly tied to the exploration, since you must find sisters scattered around the map. There are 9 of them only, but they are always hiding behind fake walls, so you must pay attention to the sounds in the area you are in. There are also other changes, like how you upgrade your fervor or health, and potion upgrades, which are nice quality of life improvements from the original. This game is also, just like the original game, open-ended, meaning that once you leave the tutorial area, you can go anywhere you want. It does give you the locations of 3 major bosses, but you still have the freedom of choosing where you want to go. The second half is linear, but since you get new abilities in the second half, you are incentivized to explore earlier parts of the game. Very few Metroidvanias invoke this feeling of wanting to explore every nook and cranny to its fullest, and Blasphemous II does this masterfully. The combat in this game has seen an upgrade from the original as well. Instead of having only one weapon for the rest of the game, now you can choose which weapon you want to start with. Ruego al Alba is a standard weapon similar to Mea Culpa in the first game. Sarmiento and Centella hit very fast, but their damage is the lowest, and the last weapon, Veredicto, has the longest range and does the highest damage of the 3 weapons, but lacks the ability to block or parry the incoming attacks. You can choose only one weapon, but you can still unlock the other 2 later. All 3 of these weapons have their own skill tree to expand their abilities to their fullest potential, but there is also a clever addition to each of the weapons. Every weapon acts like an ability. For example, using the rapiers to hit the mirror so you can teleport, Veredicto can hit these bells to summon platforms and open special gates for a brief moment, and Ruego has downward smash to destroy these wooden gates. There are a bunch of platforming sections where the game forces you to use all of the 3 weapons, and it's a great addition to the game. I haven't mentioned platforming in my last section, even though it affects exploration, so let's talk about it briefly. Platforming in Blasphemous 1 was really clunky and annoying at times. Falling into the spikes and pits meant instant death, and it made for a very frustrating experience. Especially these special platforming challenges, which were by far the worst part of the game. In Blasphemous 2, spikes and pits no longer kill you. You just lose HP and you are given the second chance. Plus, you now have double jump and air dash, which makes for some really fun platforming sections. If the platforming challenges from the first game make a return in this one, I would be happy. Getting back to the combat, all 3 weapons have equal advantages and disadvantages, so there is no weapon that is better than the other 2. Rosary beads are back, however there are also altar pieces which act like additional buffs to your character, like increasing damage to your weapon, increasing how much you recover HP, and so on. You can combine different altar pieces to get a unique ability, which will help you against bosses that you'll face. Now, there was a lot of discussion around the bosses of Blasphemous 2. Some saying that the bosses are unmemorable and lacked the grandness of the first game's bosses. Well, I'm going to say something controversial. If we don't include DLC bosses, then the first game's boss roster is mid. Like the definition of mid. They looked incredible, like their designs were amazing, but mechanically they are really bare bones. Take this boss for example. Incredible design, but the fight is just you attacking this snake thing. Now yes, if we include the DLC bosses, then the first game obviously takes the cake. But even then, bosses in Blasphemous 2 are some of the most fun and thrilling battles I've fought. A great 1v1 dance between you and Orospina, adrenaline-inducing battle with Radames, difficult but fair fight with Lesmes and Infanta, an unnerving encounter with Aphelior, a solid platforming battle with Benedicta, and an epic clash with Odon. The game does have typical giant bosses, and they are my least favorite bosses. Not bad, but they're not surpass either. But if there is one boss that I want to single out for being the best in the game, it would be Eviterno.
For I am the first penitent, and you shall be the last.
This character has been built up all the way back in the intro cutscene, and his fight doesn't disappoint one bit. His first phase is really easy, but that's okay because his second phase is where the real fight begins. He is unrelentless. He will attack you at any given moment, not to mention that he gains new attacks after you deplete his HP enough, and he does a substantial amount of damage. While he is undoubtedly the hardest boss in the game, his battle is exhilarating. Once you understand how to dodge and punish his attacks, it turns into an epic duel to see which one will fall first. And also well, just watch. It would be a crime to not mention how amazing the soundtrack is. Every piece of music is memorable and sets the tone for each area and the boss, like the music in Mother of Mothers, where it gives off a nostalgic yet sad and sorrowful feeling. Theme for Aphelior is creepy, unnerving and frightening. While for Eviterno, it's an epic battle that also uses Chrysanta's motif from the first game. Blasphemous II is what I would call a near-perfect sequel. Every problem that I had with the original game was fixed in this one, and is a prime example of what a good sequel should do. Better combat, better exploration, better platforming, better areas. The game does so many things right. Now there is one complaint that I have with the game, and that's how some enemies are reused multiple times. Like this dude with a giant mace, you will see him constantly in the game. But this is only a small complaint that I have with otherwise phenomenal game. First Blasphemous is still good, but Blasphemous 2 might be one of my favorite games I've played this year, and given how incredible this year was for gaming, that's saying a lot. I don't know what to say anymore. Go play this game. It would be a blasphemy to miss out on it. Thanks for watching.